Hello, 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 hello. How is everybody? If you are watching this on the replay, please let me know that you've seen it. Let me know if you're watching with your dog, and feel free to post a photo of your dog too in the group. I actually might do a post about that because I keep forgetting. But today we are talking about anxiety. You're in this group because you've got a dog with separation anxiety, but I want to touch on generalized anxiety. I think that is something that we need to talk about. Generalized anxiety is in addition to separation anxiety, and it's not the same. Separation anxiety is where your dog can't be home alone, but they could be quite robust dogs. They could be quite confident in everyday life and not really be too concerned about life in general. I would describe my dogs as robust, except for the boy who has noise phobia, but that's another story. But a dog that can't cope with you walking out the door has got separation anxiety, possibly, but they could be completely fine out of the home. So generalized anxiety is a little bit different. But I'm just going to run through a couple of comments that were made in the group. So Stephanie said her dog has been diagnosed with both, so separation anxiety and generalized anxiety. He whines if I am behind a door in the house. He has gotten better with us being out due to medication. He is very anxious about so many things like bushes, noises, fireworks, thunderstorms, decorations. I'm assuming that's you could even be referring to Christmas decorations, maybe Halloween decorations. Dogs are so strange, aren't they? So my dogs are pretty robust, especially the mum. But I took them to a grooming place yesterday and there was a little statue. It was probably about that big of a dog as you go in. So it was actually propping open the gate, like this little statue thing. And they all shied at it. Actually, I think the boy didn't care too much, but the girls were like, whoa, what is that? But they actually don't have generalized anxiety, but they were like, I don't know what that is. It looks really weird. But yes, my boy has got thunderstorm phobia, noise phobia, fireworks. We were down at the park. He loves going to the park. He was in a really good mood. And then somebody's car backfired and he was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and was not happy. And I luckily had him on the leash because I reckon he might have bolted if I didn't. So, yes. Bushes. Oh, interesting. That's a really interesting thing, Stephanie. Guys, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. And just say hi, so I know. And Shamika says that the podcast that I do, which is called Tales from the Doghouse, Separation Anxiety Explained, anybody, and you can find it on all good listening apps. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can watch it on that, which is, again, same name, Tales from the Doghouse, Separation Anxiety Explained, and it's also on my website, which is nestjones.com. But Shamika's listened to the podcast and it helped her realize that there was more going on than separation anxiety. So her dog is on meds, but he was struggling with separation anxiety, noise phobia, fear-based aggression. He's better, but hates the electronic sound my refrigerator makes when making ice. And he hates being poked, prodded at the vet. Well, I don't know any dogs that really enjoy going to the vets and being poked and prodded. In conjunction with meds, I've worked really hard to build his confidence. Yes, we're going to talk about that. Rough general training and just taking him with me just about everywhere I go. Cool. Yes. So what is generalized anxiety? So for me, it's when your dog is scared of the world. So a leaf could fall out of the sky and it might shy and be scared. Is it fear of the vets? I would not say that's generalized anxiety. So my girls hate going to the vets. They are robust dogs. They haven't got generalized anxiety. They don't have separation anxiety. They don't have anxiety, but they don't like going to the vets. So it's all the smells and stuff at the vets. It's kind of scary for dogs. and they're not real keen on it. So because you might say, look, this dog is scared, worried, blah, 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 at the vets, it could be a training issue. So what do, is it something that could have been done when the dog was a puppy that maybe made them feel a bit more confident at the vets? Or, maybe they just don't like the vets. So like my Chase, she does not like the vets, that dog behind me on the wall, the Malinois. She just is like, oh my God, tucked tail, hunched over, kind of like this, because of the vets is a scary place, but she does not have generalized anxiety. I would also, but I'm not saying that some dogs have generalized anxiety when they go to the vets. So it's kind of context. What do they look like outside of that? And again, with the reactivity. So if a dog is maybe reactive to other dogs or people or things like that, is that because that's a training issue, or it's, again, the context? So maybe they don't like other dogs for whatever reason. Maybe they were attacked when they were puppies, or could be any number of reasons, just not great socialization for that dog. That doesn't mean they've got generalized anxiety necessarily. It depends on what else is going on, what else is happening in their world, in their lives. What do they react to? How are they reacting to life in general, if that makes sense? So generalized anxiety is anxious constantly, not just at a certain thing. They're constantly anxious about something, which means their anxiety is generalized. So it's not just one little thing. So my boy, who's noise phobic and he has bad noise phobia, he hasn't got generalized anxiety because he's very happy and content, and he's, loves life. It's just the noise stuff. So that's not generalized anxiety. It's one particular part of his life. Reactivity, that's not generalized anxiety if it is only one particular part of their life. And same with fear of the vets. These are just examples, not generalized anxiety, unless it's everything, unless it's the minute they step out the door, they're like, oh my God, what is going to come and get me? I'm scared. If it's just at the vets, if that's the only time you see that behavior, like my girl Chase, that's not generalized anxiety. It's just they're scared of the vets. Does that make sense to everyone? Can just someone maybe comment and just say, yes, that makes sense. So I think we have to be really cautious about, how we diagnose generalized anxiety. A dog can have separation anxiety and have a fear of the vets, but still not have generalized anxiety. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I can see there's some people watching, but no one is commenting. Say hello, please. Just one person. I'm just checking. Yep. Oh, here we are. Roxanne says, makes total sense. Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate it. I'll just pop that up there. Yes, thank you. Okay, so why? I've just got some notes here. I haven't got my glasses on. So we've sort of said what it isn't. So for me, what it is would be a dog that steps outside the door and maybe is nervy in the house as well. Depends on the dog. But certainly when they step out into the big wide world, everything is a threat. Everything is scary. That is generalized anxiety. And we have to ask why a dog might have generalized anxiety. So it could be that maybe the mum wasn't getting proper nutrition when they were in the womb, and she was unable to pass that on. She wasn't able to give the pups a good upbringing. It could be a genetic issue. It could be poor, like when mum was whelping them, that maybe, in that 8-week window where she's still looking after them, maybe she couldn't look after them properly. It could be things like that. So it's kind of those sort of things are a big question. But thereafter, we have to ask if everything was right with the mum, with the genetics, etc. We have to ask what happened afterwards when they went to their new homes. But just touching on genetics, breeding can really play a part. So we do have to watch out for that, making sure that mum and dad and hopefully the bloodlines before that are robust, confident bloodlines, not ones that, not breeders that some breeders are in it for the money. I hate to say it. And they may be breeding anxious dogs. And we have to be very, very careful about that. Okay, so, but puppy development. So there is a study, and I always forget the name, I should write this down, but that say dogs between 5 and 9 months of age, if they get good socialization in that window, that it helps them down the track. I would suggest right from when they're born to 9 months, when they're developing that, becoming teenagers, that's really important to also do that. But socialization isn't taking them down to the dog park where they can feel overwhelmed and scared. It's building their confidence. So yes, you want to expose them to things, but you want to do it in a safe way. So if you have a puppy and you go to the vet, and they say, oh, you can't let your puppy out into the big wide world until they're 16 months old. I do not agree with that at all. Sorry if anybody doesn't like that, but I don't agree with that. There are ways you can do it, and you can do it safely for the puppy, both physically in terms of not exposing them to dangerous bugs in the environment, parvo, etc., distemper, whatever it is. And also not exposing them to scary events. So you do it in a safe way. Dogs have fear periods. They have socialization windows. That period up to 16 weeks is really important. And if you never take your dog out in that period, they're not learning about the world. So when they do go out, everything can freak them out. If they're not robust dogs, if they're, maybe on the verge of not feeling great about things, life in general, then missing that window can really upset the apple cart. So how do you do that? So you can, and again, it's not taking them to the dog park. So there's a lot of diseases in dog parks. So that would be one reason you wouldn't, unless they've had all their vax. But also, there's big dogs. There's, it's often a very excitable place. You wouldn't want to expose a little puppy to that. You want to do it safely. So they don't need to go on the ground. You can pick them up and carry them, or you can put them in a pram or a trolley if you're going to the shops, if your shops will allow you. So a lot of hardware stores here in Australia will let you put your puppy into a trolley and wheel them around. So they're getting exposed to things in a safe way. You're not going to let somebody come up to them and go, puppy. If advocate for your puppy. If you think your puppy's a little bit afraid, just say, hang on, no, I'm just letting them see the world. I don't want to interact. I don't want them to interact with you. I don't want you to interact with them, because you can clearly see they're scared. I'm just trying to build their confidence. So you need to advocate for your dog. But if they miss that window, it can really be detrimental to their development. So we have to really think about that. So you could take your puppy to a playground and hold it, so they experience the noise of kids and kids running and all that, but you're far enough away where your puppy feels confident. You don't want to throw them in the deep end, and most puppies are fine, but if a puppy is not comfortable, then you're too close. You want to keep them far enough away so that they feel confident and comfortable. And then that builds their confidence. So as they develop and they grow up, et cetera, they're more able to cope with the world. Does that make sense? And I feel that's the same with, puppies. They're like kids, right? So a 3-year-old child is going to be more wanting to be with mum, but when they hit their teens, they're a lot more confident. And, mum is like, go away. But yes, puppies are the same. So we have to think about that in terms of them being with us and building their confidence. You wouldn't take a toddler and, I don't know, throw it in a pool and expect it to swim. You would do it very, very carefully, and you would build their confidence. And so they feel like that there's the water, but hey, I've done this, I can do this. I'm confident about the water and I'm feeling fine. Whereas if you just threw the kid in the pool and expected them to be able to swim, next time they see water, they're probably going to scream their heads off. And so it's the same with puppies. We want to expose them to the world safely. So you could go and hang out at a shopping center, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so we're doing it safely. We're not letting them freak out about stuff that could impact them, especially if it's their period, their window of socialization. It's really, really important. So we do need to do confidence building. And as Shamika said, confidence building is really important for a dog with separation anxiety, but also for general anxiety as well. So what does confidence building look like? For me, it's letting the dog figure stuff out for themselves. So when we're teaching a dog something, we might lure them with some food or something like that. But this is more, you figure out what it is. It's letting them solve stuff. It could be something like using their nose to find food, finding a favorite toy. It could be impulse control stuff. It could be shaping. So shaping is where they have to figure out what it is that you want, and you're not luring them. So you're not saying, I want you to do a sit. Let's say sit, for example. Say your puppy doesn't know what sit is, right? So most of us, myself included, will get some food, put it over the puppy's nose. Puppy goes like that, bum goes down. You've got to sit, magical. If you wanted to do shaping, and I wouldn't use sit as an example, I wouldn't use shaping for sit, really. You could, though. What you would do is you would wait for your puppy to sit, and then you would click that. So the puppy figures it out, problem solves it. Oh, if I put my bum on the ground, I get a treat. And you can shape that. So you could do it with any number of things. You don't use your voice. The puppy does something you want the puppy to do, and you give it a treat. Click, treat. That's just a very basic way of explaining it. But that is confidence building for the puppy. They start trying things. They're like, oh, well, maybe if I do this, I get this. And it's a real good confidence building exercise. The other thing is getting puppies up on things. So if they, in a safe way, of course, so you can take them to the playground and get them up on benches or, walls, whatever it is, helps puppy feel more confident if they've got generalized anxiety. But there are some puppies with generalized anxiety that are just scared of the world. So, maybe there's a leaf falling, maybe there's a sudden noise, maybe it's a truck going by. It could just be a shadow. Puppies that are just scared of the world, I believe, are candidates for medication. So I am by no means anybody that says, yes, you must take medication, get your dog medicated. But if my puppy was living in fight, flight all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that is really unhealthy. It's toxic stress. It's chronic stress, and it's not good for your dog. It will shorten their lifespan. And I feel like any puppy that's suffering can you imagine the worst, most stressful time of your life when you've got that knot in your stomach, you can't eat, you're just tense, you can't think straight. You must think about that. So I know myself, when I'm really, really stressed, like really stressed, my thinking brain goes, I can't think. I kind of will sit there going, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what I'm doing. It's horrible. And you feel that awful tension in your tummy. And everything is just, you're hyper alert, hyper vigilant. And you see that in dogs a lot with generalized anxiety. And it's a horrible feeling. And imagine feeling like that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not nice. So I do believe those puppies, or dogs, I should say, are candidates for medication. Of course, that's a conversation to have with your vet. I am unable to, and we have to make sure that puppy needs those medications. So as I said, if it's just a case of my dog's going to the vets and they're really robust, they're really confident dogs, but they don't like the vets or they don't like other dogs and they're reactive, that isn't generalized anxiety. So when you go to your vets to talk about medication, you need to say, no, it is scared of the world. The other stuff is a training issue. Although, with my girl that's scared of the vets, she sometimes I will get her medicated before we go in there just to make it more comfortable for her. But a dog that can't cope with the world needs medication. It really does. It's horrible. It's toxic stress, and it's really bad for them. So, and then of course any medication there's no magic pills. There's no magic pills for separation anxiety or generalized anxiety. Still training needs to be done. So confidence building for a dog with generalized anxiety would still need to be done. Separation anxiety, of course, still needs to be done. You can't say, here's your pill, you're fine, I'm walking out the door, here's your pill, you're fine, let's go and go to the dog park or go somewhere where it's too much overwhelm for your dog. Everything still needs to be done mindfully. So once you've got the right medication, and that can take a while, it's not an overnight thing. It can take up to 8 weeks to really see if there's going to be a difference for your dog. And then you'll be really lucky if you strike the right medication the first time. So then you need to wean your dog off the medication and find another one. And that can take 8 weeks. And then if that's not the right one, you've got to start again. It can be a slow process, and it's essential that you keep an open dialogue with your vet because if you don't, they don't know what's going on. And the amount of times I've heard people say, oh, I tried this medication, didn't work. And they don't keep that conversation up with their vet. So the vet doesn't know. They just think, oh, okay, well, we're not doing this. But if the vet knows that we tried this, but it didn't work, can we, wean the dog off and try another one? Or, what's our next option? Then the vet will give you options if they're skilled in separation, in medication. But what's this? So Mary says, wait there, Mary. Medication has been a godsend for us. Yeah, it brought our girl's anxiety down enough that we could finally work on the bad behaviors. She is learning so much quickly now. And that's what it should do. It should facilitate any training that you are doing, whether it's separation anxiety or whether it's, being scared of the world. It will take that edge off. It'll take that horrible fight, flight stuff out of the system. And then she can think. Because when we're in fight, flight, we cannot think. And so your dog, if a dog has got generalized anxiety, is out and about in the world without that support of the medication, all they think is, oh my God, I'm scared. You see, the tucked tails, the heavy panting, the drawling, the kind of hunched over sort of body language, the big wide eyes, the whale eyes, all those things that indicate that your dog is not coping, the cowering, all that sort of stuff. Give them the medication, expose them to the big wide world once it's working properly in a safe environment, the same as you would with a puppy growing up. They're going to cope better. It's not going to be an overnight thing, even with the medication. It still has to be done gradually. And as you say, Mary, so you're working on it and she's getting it and she's picking up so much more quickly now because she's using her brain. She can finally think clearly. So medication can be a godsend for these dogs. But that's kind of it for me. So if anyone's got any questions, let me know. Hopefully I've covered everything. I just think that, like I said, I'm not anybody that says you must have medication. I would suggest it for a dog with separation anxiety, though. I really would. Not separation anxiety, generalized anxiety, sorry. Dogs with separation anxiety may need medication and they may not. So a dog with separation anxiety and generalized anxiety, yes, I would say talk to your vet. A dog with separation anxiety that maybe was a COVID puppy and has never learnt to be by themselves, well, perhaps they don't need medication. I know there are some separation anxiety trainers that refuse to take on clients unless the dog is on meds, and I am not one of those people. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that all dogs need medication. Sometimes they might need some to get them across the line in terms of facilitating the training and then weaning them off. But those ones with generalized anxiety probably need it all the time. Of course, all that is a conversation to be had with your vet. I am not a vet, but that's how I see it. Yeah, any questions? There is, if you jump onto my YouTube channel, which is just separation anxiety. Oh, I think it's Ness Jones. Anyway, you can find it under separation anxiety in dogs decoded. There is an interview there with Dr. Chris Parkle, who is like a rock star in the world of medication, and he tells us when it might be appropriate to use medication, how it's introduced, when it's, when, how, why, etc., etc. So it's a really good interview, and really suggest listening to that. Right, that's me though, really. I just wanted to talk about there is a difference between having just separation anxiety and having generalized anxiety. You can imagine a dog with generalized anxiety is probably going to have separation anxiety as one of the issues that it's going through. But not all dogs with separation anxiety have generalized anxiety. So it depends what else is going on. We need to look at the big picture. How does your dog cope with the world? Cool. All right, so if anybody needs help, if anyone's watching on replay and needs some help specifically with their dog, you can reach out to me at nessjones.com, which is there on the screen, and I can talk you through my program and how I can help you get your dog over this issue. Dr. P opened my eyes about a lot of things. I love Dr. P. I have to say, Roxanne, I'm a little bit sort of starstruck. Is that the right word? Yeah, he's such a lovely guy, and he's always got a smile on his face, and he's so giving with his information, his knowledge, and his time. And yeah, I think there's a lot of value to watching that interview. If you're unsure, especially if you're really unsure about whether your dog needs medication, and again, it's always a conversation for your vet. And sometimes it's a case of finding the right vet too. So not all vets are created equal. Some of them won't want to medicate your dog. It could be a lack of knowledge on their part. Sometimes you've got to shop around for the right vet. Or maybe if it's not a lack of knowledge, maybe they recognize that your dog doesn't need medication. I'm assuming they would ask you a series of questions. But if your dog needs them, then, and you feel that they do, then find the right vet. Yeah, cool. All right. Oh, I have been going for half an hour. How about that? Yes. So no more questions? Oh, cool. All right. Well, I'll see you next week, hopefully. I do like doing these lives. It just feel like I'm helping, hopefully. Helping some people. Cool. All righty. Take care, guys.